You've been walking for 2 days. Your tongue is stuck to the roof of your mouth. Your thoughts are getting slower, foggier, like wading through mud just to remember which direction camp is. And then you see it, a pool of water sitting in a low, rocky basin, still greenish, ringed with dead insects along the edge. You are so thirsty that every cell in your body is screaming at you to drink it. But something stops you. Something ancient in the back of your brain says, wait, because that water might save your life, or it might be the exact thing that kills you. For most of human history, water wasn't something you turned on with a handle. It was one of the deadliest gambles you faced every single day, a decision that had to be made over and over, with no instructions and no second chances. So how did ancient humans figure out which water would keep them alive and which water would kill them? Let's be honest about how dangerous this actually was. A human can survive weeks without food, but only about 3 days without water. That single fact made water the most urgent daily problem our ancestors ever solved. More urgent than shelter, more urgent than even hunting. And it wasn't just about finding water. Bad water could be just as deadly as no water at all. Stagnant pools breed bacteria. Standing water collects parasites like Giardia. Some sources are naturally toxic, loaded with minerals like arsenic or alkaline salts that can cause organ failure over time. Drinking the wrong water didn't just make you sick. In a world with no medicine, dehydration from diarrhea alone could kill an adult in days and a child in hours. There was no hospital to walk into, no rehydration salts, no antibiotics if an infection took hold. So ancient humans needed a system, and they built one. Not through writing or laboratory science, but through generations of trial, death, and memory, refined slowly enough that it eventually stopped feeling like knowledge at all and started feeling like instinct. The first tool they had was observation. Long before humans understood microbiology, they understood behavior, specifically animal behavior. Herbivores like antelope, zebra, and elephants need enormous amounts of clean water daily, and they are far more sensitive to contamination than most people realize. Ancient trackers learned to read the land through these animals. Fresh hoofprints leading in a specific direction at dawn or dusk almost always led to water, because that's precisely when herds move to drink, twice a day, like clockwork. Elephants in particular were treated as living water maps. They can smell water from miles away and will dig through dry riverbeds to reach it. And early humans followed those dig sites the same way you'd follow a trail of breadcrumbs. Birds were another signal. Certain species, doves and finches especially, rarely stray far from a reliable water source and drink at very specific times of day, usually early morning. Even insect activity mattered. Swarms of bees are almost never far from water, since a hive needs a constant supply to regulate its internal temperature and process nectar. Sand hunter-gatherers in the Kalahari Desert, one of the driest inhabited environments on Earth, still use these exact techniques today. Anthropologists studying the Juhawantsi have documented how they track bee flight lines back to hidden water sources buried under sand, reading the angle and speed of the bees the way a modern person might read a compass. Taste and smell were the next filter, and this is where instinct did a lot of the heavy lifting. Humans evolved a strong aversion to certain smells associated with decay and bacteria, sulfur, rot, a sharp metallic tang. That disgust response wasn't random. It was a survival mechanism refined over hundreds of thousands of years, keeping people away from water contaminated by the specific pathogens most likely to kill them. Clear, moving water was instinctively trusted over still water, and for good reason. Moving water is naturally aerated and far less hospitable to the bacteria that thrive in stagnant, sun-warmed pools. This is why so many early human settlements cluster along rivers and streams rather than nearby ponds, even when the pond was closer and easier to reach. The preference wasn't cultural, it was survival math, passed down as gut instinct and reinforced generation after generation by taste alone. But instinct wasn't enough on its own. Ancient humans didn't just find water, they learned to clean it, and the evidence for this goes back much further than most people assume. Archaeologists working in the Kalahari Desert have found evidence that early humans used specific reed and grass species as natural filters, bundling them together to strain sediment, insects, and larger organisms out of murky water before drinking. In parts of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, sand and gravel filtration was in active use thousands of years before written history existed, sediment settling out as water passed through layered material, a crude but genuinely effective version of the same physics your modern water filter still relies on today. And once fire became reliable, everything changed. Boiling water kills the overwhelming majority of dangerous pathogens, and there is strong evidence that ancient humans understood this connection long before they understood why it worked. They simply noticed that boiled water made people sick less often than water straight from a pool. That observation alone, repeated across thousands of generations and passed down as a rule rather than a theory, was enough to turn boiling into standard practice wherever fire and containers were both available. Storage was its own separate battle entirely. Finding water was one problem. Keeping it clean and carrying it somewhere else was another problem altogether. Ancient Africans used ostrich eggshells as canteens, a single shell capable of holding close to a liter, sealed with beeswax or plant resin, and sometimes buried in the sand near known travel routes as an emergency supply for a future journey. Archaeologists in the Kalahari have found ostrich eggshell caches deliberately buried decades apart, suggesting these were essentially ancient water depots, planned in advance for a return trip that might not happen for years, a level of long-term planning most people don't associate with prehistoric life. Gourds, hollowed and dried in the sun, served the same purpose in other regions, light enough to carry and sealed enough to prevent evaporation on long treks. And once humans mastered basic engineering, wells appear in the archaeological record. Some of the oldest confirmed water wells, discovered in what is now Cyprus and Israel, date back over 8,000 years, hand-dug shafts reaching down to the water table, lined with stone to prevent collapse and keep surface contaminants from washing in. A well wasn't just a hole in the ground, it was infrastructure, a signal that a group intended to stay in one place permanently, because nobody digs 8 meters into solid rock for a camp they plan to abandon in a month. Then there's the truly extreme environments, deserts, where water isn't just hard to find, it's actively hidden. The Sand people of the Kalahari developed one of the most remarkable water-finding techniques ever documented, locating specific underground tubers that store enormous amounts of moisture, digging them out with sharpened sticks, and literally sucking the water directly from the root. Some of these plants can supply a person with enough hydration to survive for days with no other water source at all, effectively functioning as buried canteens that grow themselves. In other desert regions, humans learned to read dew with almost scientific precision. In the cold hours before dawn, moisture collects on stones, leaves, and even animal fur. Some groups draped cloth or animal hide over vegetation overnight, specifically to catch condensation, wringing out a small but genuinely life-sustaining amount of drinkable water by morning. It's a slow method, and it might only yield a cup or two, but when the alternative is death, slow and real beats fast and nothing every single time. All of this had a consequence far bigger than just keeping individuals alive day to day. Water access quite literally shaped the map of human civilization. Migration routes out of Africa followed known water corridors, rivers, wetlands, and seasonal lakes, because a route without water wasn't a route at all. It was a death march with extra steps. Early permanent settlements didn't form randomly. They formed almost exclusively near dependable water. The Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus. The very first cities on Earth exist specifically because their location solved the water problem permanently instead of daily. Every choice a hunter-gatherer group made, where to camp, when to move, which direction to travel next season, was filtered through one silent question that never stopped running in the background of every decision. Where is the next reliable water, and how do we know it won't kill us? Think about what that actually means. For nearly the entire span of human existence, drinking a simple glass of water required tracking skill, chemical intuition passed down as instinct, engineering knowledge, and sometimes outright desperation. It required knowing which insects to trust, which smells to avoid, which plants held moisture underground, and which ground was safe enough to dig 8 meters into. Getting this wrong didn't mean a bad afternoon. It meant disease, or it meant death. Sometimes for an entire group at once if a shared source turned toxic without warning. And they solved it, not with instruments, not with science as we understand it today, but with generations of accumulated hard-won observation, refined and retested, and passed down until it stopped being knowledge and became something closer to instinct itself. Right now, there's a tap a few feet from you. Turn it, and clean water comes out instantly. Tested, treated, guaranteed safe. No tracking bees at dawn. No digging 8 meters into rock. No gambling your life on the color of a pool sitting at the edge of the desert. That convenience took hundreds of thousands of years of trial and error to earn, and most of it was paid for by people who got it wrong and never got a second chance. The next time you fill a glass without a second thought, remember that single, unremarkable action used to be one of the most dangerous decisions a human being could make.